some people may find problem. Okay, I feel like some people are having problem. They are going in and out of the meeting. Please try to check your internet connection and then rejoin. Okay, and I'll record the class and I will share it with everybody. So if you feel like there is some internet problem right now, don't worry, you can watch this later on as well. Okay, so let's start. So for probability, we'll start with sets. Okay, so the basic of sets, we say, we always write set with a cap, we always denote set with a capital letter, and we write small letters in cursive. Now set is nothing but collection of similar items. So set is nothing but collection of similar items. So here I would say this is nothing but first five alphabets, small alphabets of English language. So there is a connection between all five, and that is why I'm representing them as capital letters. Let's say I have B. Let's say that is. Whenever we talk about sets, these are nothing but the elements. So the elements are separated by commas in our set. Okay, and we say that we have A intersection B. Intersection is nothing but and. The sets are derived from logic. Okay, so that is why we can convert any mathematical or logical functions or logical statements into sets. So how do we convert that? This is nothing but A and B. We are talking about any element that is in A as well as in B. So this is called as intersection. So intersection में we'll say C, D and E are in A as well as in B. So that becomes A and B. Similarly, we have A union B. A union B, union is similar to as or. We'll say the element is either in A or in B. That represents nothing but union. So any element that is in A or in B would be here. That becomes A union B. Now, as you can see, we had C, D, and E that were common, but we have written that only once here. That is because we always believe that any element exists only once in a universal set. Universal set, we represent it as capital U or X or S. This is nothing but universal set, or we also call it as sample space. So you can represent it as U, X or S, does not matter. Then we have complement. Complement can be written as A dash, AC or A bar. This is nothing but complement of A. Complement of A, I will write it as A dash, is nothing but everything minus A. So that will be our universal set. I'll write it as X minus A. Everything other than A comes in our complement of A. When I represent it in a diagram, this is called as Venn diagram. I'll say this is my set A, this is my set B. So this becomes my universal set. So everything everything other than A, I will shade it with red. This becomes nothing but everything other than this is nothing but my A complement. I can show this is nothing but A intersection B in green, and everything that comprises A as well as B, that becomes our union, right? So our A complement is nothing but everything other than A. So universal set minus A. Then we talk about number of elements. Number of elements in A in this example is nothing but 5. Number of elements in B is also 5. Number of elements in A intersection B is 3. Number of elements in A union B is 8. I think so, 8, no, 7. And we have a formula for that. We say number of A union B will be equal to NA plus NB minus NA intersection B. Here, what we are saying is, it is we have added all the elements in A and all the elements in B, but we had three elements in common, so we subtracted them once because we added this intersection when we were adding A, we added the intersection when we were adding B, so we'll have to subtract it once because it has been added two times. So A union B becomes nothing but NA plus NB minus NA intersection B. There is another way of writing this. I can say that if this is my Venn diagram again, I say this A is represented by small a, this B is represented by small b, and this C is represented by small c. So I would say that I'm talking about A plus B plus C, where A is nothing but, I would say, only A, B is nothing but only B, and C is again A intersection B. So how many elements in only A? How do we find only A? So I can say only A, this only A part, only A is going to be nothing but our A intersection B complement. Now how do I show that? I'll again draw the Venn diagram here. I'll show this only A part. I will shade A with red, and I will shade B complement with green. And you can see the intersection between this, that means the common part between red and green is nothing but the only A part, right? So only A is nothing but A but not B. When we say intersection, we said intersection is nothing but and if you know the English language, and but are basically the same thing. Okay, अगर conjunction पढ़ा होगा कभी तो भी, does not really matter. And but is basically the same thing. So we'll say this is A but not B. So when we are talking about only A, we are talking about A but not B. Or I can write this as B complement. And that becomes A intersection B complement. So only B is going to be A complement intersection B. This is B but not A. And then we'll have A intersection B. So this is another way of writing A union B. We are saying A but not B plus B but not A plus A and B both. So that will make A union B. Similarly, if I have three elements or three sets, not elements, have A, B, and C, the formula of A union B union C is nothing but A plus B plus C, then minus A intersection B, B intersection C, C intersection A, and then plus triple intersection. So this is our formula. How do we get to that formula? We add all three, A, B, and C, but this common region A intersection B has been added twice, so I'll have to subtract it once. Then B intersection C again added twice, I'll have to subtract once. C intersection A added twice, subtracted once. And this small region triple intersection has been added three times because of A, B, and C, then subtracted three times because of the intersection part. So we will have to add it once more. So this is how we get this for particular formula. Again, I can write this formula by representing this as only A. This is my only B. This is my only C. This part D is only A and B. I am not including this triple intersection. This part is E, this part is F, and this part is G. So I can again add all of these small letters to get the whole A intersection B intersection, sorry, A union B union C. So how do I represent that? My A or only A can be written as A but not B, not C. That becomes my only A. It has A but it does not have B, but it not does not have C. So that becomes A intersection B complement intersection C complement. It becomes A but not B but not C. Similarly, the small b region is nothing but only B. So I will say that is B but not A. So A complement but not C. That is nothing but A complement intersection B intersection C complement. Similarly, the only C will be A complement intersection B complement intersection C. That is C but not A but not B. Then this D part, small d jo part hai, that is A and B, but it should not be C. So that is A and B, but not C. That would be A intersection B intersection C complement. So I'll write it here. A and B, but not C. Similarly, E part will be B and C, but not A. And the last part will be A and C, that is our F part will be A and C but not B. And the last part G is again triple intersection, it is common to all. It is A intersection B intersection C. That becomes another way of writing A union B union C. So we can write it in this term as well. Now if you have four, if you have A union B union C union D, if you need to find this, there's a simple way. We will first add up all A, B and C, A, B, C, D. We will add them up. Then we'll subtract single intersection. So A intersection B, B intersection C, C intersection D, D intersection A, then A intersection C. All the possible intersections we will subtract. Then we will add up all triple intersections. So A, B, and C, B, C, and D, then A, C, D. How many ever you will get, you will add them up, and then you will subtract four wala intersection A intersection B intersection C intersection D. Okay. So alternatively, we add and subtract and keep on increasing one intersection. Alternatively, you will add, subtract, add, subtract, add, subtract. So that way you can make any amount of sets union formula. We don't have four, we never see four sets together, at least not in exam point of view, because it becomes very lengthy. So we'll not go for that. But there are a few more set formulas that we should take care of. One is that A union B, the whole complement, will be equal to A complement intersection B complement. Similarly, A intersection B complement will just be A complement union B complement. So these are few things that we should remember of sets. Now we'll get back to probability. So probability of A. Now here A was nothing but set, but here A will call it as event. Event is something that will have some outcomes. So event, we know what an event is, but mathematically an event would be something that might happen in the future that has some known outcomes. So we have some known outcomes. So an event A probability will be number of elements, number of outcomes in this case. Outcome becomes its elements. Number of elements in A upon number of elements in universal set or in our sample space. So what we are saying is probability of A, probability of getting any element from this event A would be nothing but number of desired elements divided by number of desired total elements, or you would call it as desired outcomes divided by total outcomes. That becomes our probability. Now in any formula of sets like this, if I divide this by an x and x and x and x, what does this become? This becomes probability of A union B gives us probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B. So any formula can be translated directly from sets to probability. Any formula. Okay. So all these formulas that we studied here and the formulas that we have not studied will be directly translated into probability. I'll give an example. Let's say I have an event A that says picking a 7. I'm talking about a deck of 52 cards and we are picking a card. We are saying picking a 7, and event B is nothing but picking a club. So we have a deck of 52 cards and we are saying event A is picking a 7 and event B is picking a club. So probability of A is nothing but picking a 7. We have desired outcomes are 4. There are 4 sevens. and in total we have 52 cards, so I could pick any card from those 52 cards. So the desired probability becomes 1 by 13 or 4 by 52. Similarly, probability of B, picking a club. Picking a club, I have 13 clubs in the deck out of 52 cards. So my desired probability becomes 1 by 4. What would be A intersection B? A intersection B, the card must be a 7 and a club. 7 and club, that means it is 7 of clubs. How many card do we have? We have only one such card, that is 7 as well as clubs. So I'll have 1 by 52 probability that of that happening. Okay, 7 of clubs. Right. Then probability A union B. A union B. First of all, what is A union B? Any card that is 7 or club or both, that becomes A union B. So probability of A union B, we have 4 sevens and we have 13 clubs, but there is one 7 that is also a club. So in total we have 16 such cards. 16 cards out of 52, and we can find that using a formula as well. Probability A union B is nothing but probability of A plus probability of B minus probability of A intersection B, and we'll use same denominator. We are getting 16 by 52. Using the formula or using logic, we should get the same answer. So picking a 7 out of 52 cards would be 1 by 13. Picking a club out of 52 cards would be 1 by 4. But picking a 7 or a club would be 16 by 52. Whatever, you can reduce it. This is just an example. That is why I'm not going any further. I'm not calculating what will that be. So that is how we can translate our sets into probabilities. Now we have different types of events. The first type of event that we are going to study so we are going to see mutually exclusive events. Any two events that do not have anything in common are called as mutually exclusive event. Do not have anything in common. They are called as mutually exclusive events. So if I say A and B are mutually exclusive, then A intersection B must be equal to 0. They do not have anything in common. So probability of A intersection B must be equal to 0. Then we have mutually exhaustive events. So when we say that together they make or they have everything, they have all the outcomes shared among themselves, then they are called as mutually exhaustive events. They exhaust every possibility together. We'll say together they consist everything. They are called as mutually exhaustive events. So here we are saying together they make everything. So number of elements in A union B will be same as number of elements in our universal set. So therefore, if I divide this, I'll get that probability of A union B becomes 1. Probability of A union B becomes 1. That is nothing but our mutually exclusive events, mutually exhaustive and mutually exclusive events. Now we know that the probability always lies between 0 and 1. We should always take care of that. It will always be between 0 and 1. So mutually exclusive is the lowest and mutually exhaustive is the highest probability that we can actually attain. Then we have independent events. So we say if A and B are independent, what does that actually mean? I will write down the whole definition. This is very important to understand. When occurrence or non-occurrence of one event does not affect the occurrence or non-occurrence of the other, then they are independent events. What does that mean? One event, if it occurs or does not occur, should not affect the second event. Then they are called as independent events. Now, if I just give you the mathematical formula, so we say if A and B are independent, then we say probability of A intersection B will be equal to probability of A into probability of B. This is mathematically how we say that A and B are independent. Now this is nothing but occurrence of A does not affecting occurrence of B. That means irrespective of what we get in A, the probability of B will not change. So probability of them happening together must be probability of A into probability of B. Similarly, A complement intersection B. So non-occurrence of A should also not affect occurrence of B, and non-occurrence of A should not affect non-occurrence of B and occurrence of A should not affect non-occurrence of B. These all four will be true. Okay, so all of these four will be true when A and B are independent. And if any one of these is true, then A and B are independent. Now, can you tell me the example that we took before when we said A is nothing but picking a 7 and B is nothing but picking a club? Are they independent events or not? You can type in the chat. So, are they? Just type yes or no. Okay. So, do you think? So, I've got two no's. Any yeses? So, I have three no's and one yes. Any more? Should I take everybody else as non-participating? Chalo. So, some people might say yes, some people might say no. I'll say that probability of A into probability of B is 1 by 13 into 1 by 4, that is 1 by 52. That is equal to probability of A intersection B. So it must be that they are independent of each other. But in actuality, they are not. A and B are not independent of each other. Neither are they dependent on each other. So they are neither independent nor dependent. Now, how can that be? Independent bhi nahi hai and dependent bhi nahi hai. Because these two events cannot be compared as dependent and independent. I'll just give you an example. What if I change this picking a club to picking a 6? I have not changed anything here. Now the probability of picking a 7 is 4 by 52, and picking a 6 is also 4 by 52, or 1 by 13, 1 by 13. And clearly probability of picking a 7 and a 6 would be 8 by 52. I have four sevens and I have four sixes, so total becomes out of sorry, this will be 0 by 52. Together I cannot have a 7 that is also a 6, so it will be 0 by 52. So this 0 by 52 is not multiplication of 4 and 4, and all I did was change the type of card. So just changing the type of card should not change what is happening here. So A and B are not independent and they are not dependent. Why is that the case? Because here I am picking only one card. This is just one single event. So one single event cannot be dependent or independent to itself. Correct? This is just one single event, and A and B are nothing but outcomes of that single event. Getting a 7 or getting a club or getting a 6 of that one single card is nothing but outcome of the single event. Now you know subsets, as any set can be subset of another set. Similarly, any event can be subset of another event. Okay. So here A and B are nothing but subset of a bigger event, that is picking one single card. So that is why I cannot compare whether they are क्या बोलते हैं dependent or independent. I need at least two events to say whether they are dependent or independent. So here, if I say now I'm picking two cards, in the first I need to find what is the probability that I will get 7. So I will write it as A1. And I need to find probability that I, I will get a club in the second one, that is my B2. Now I have two different cards. Now can you tell me whether this A1 and B2 events are independent or not? Now I have two different cards. I am picking two different cards. And in the first card, I need 7. In the second card, I need club. So whether they are independent or not. So you can write yes or no. Okay. So now everybody is saying yes, they are independent. Now again, I cannot just say whether they are dependent on or independent, because the information that I have given is not complete. Okay. So what did I deliberately not tell you? That whether we are going to replace the card after we pick our first card. So it becomes different if I replace or if I do not replace. So what is the difference? So let's say if I replace. So in the first card, whatever the number I get, maybe a 7, maybe a 6, maybe whatever. Okay. So whatever I get in the first card, I see that and then replace it in the deck and reshuffle it. So the probability of selecting the second card now does not change depending on whatever I got in the first card. So first card may, if I get 7, so probability of getting a 7 in the first card would be 4 by 52. And because I replaced it, probability of getting a club in the second card would be 13 by 52. But if I did not replace, probability of my first card still remains same. Out of 52 card, I still have 4 options. But if I did not replace my second card ke liye, I have only 51 cards. That means I took the first card, set it aside, then I select the second card. So in the deck now I have only 51 cards. So probability of B2 has now changed. Denominator is now 51 instead of 52. And also my numerator depends on whether the first card was a club or not. If the first card was club, then this becomes 12 by 52, because now I have only 12 cards of clubs. And if first card was not a club, then this becomes 13 by 50. So my occurrence of first is affecting my occurrence of second, or non-occurrence of first is occurring non-occurrence of second. So if the first is a club, then I have a different answer. If the first is not a club, then I have a different answer. Occurrence or non-occurrence of one event is now affecting the occurrence and non-occurrence of my second. So now they become dependent. So even if I am selecting two cards, that does not say whether they are going to be dependent or independent. I have to tell you that whether I will replace them after selection or do not replace them after selection. So if we are replacing, then they are independent. If we are not replacing, then they are dependent. So if I say with replacement, I'll make a question. I'll say from a deck of 52 cards, find the probability of getting or selecting. I'll have different options. First, I'll say two sevens out of three cards second, first two sevens out of three cards. Third would be at least two sevens out of three cards. So these are the three things that we are trying to find. So I'm saying out of 52 cards, because here we have only sevens are important. So I'll say probability of A, that is my selecting a seven, is going to be 1 by, I'll just write it as 4 by 52 instead of 1 by 13. I'll write it as 4 by 52. So probability of selecting a 7 is 4 by 52, or you can write it as 1 by 13 as well. Okay, does not matter. And I'll just say probability of not selecting a 7, a complement, is 12 by 13, or you can say 48 by 52, however you want to write it. Now I will do the second part first. If I'm saying that I need first two as 7, so out of the three cards I will have 7 7, and then I will have not a 7. So here probability of getting a intersection a complement must be equal to probability of a into probability of a into probability of a complement, because they are independent of each other. Because this would be first card में 7, this would be second card में 7, this would be third card में 7. So probability of getting 7 in our first card, 7 in our second card, and not getting 7 in our third card. And because they are independent, probability is not changing. Okay, so whenever we have replacement, then they are independent of each other. This will be just our 1 by 13 square into 12 by 13. I'll be also teaching you how to use our scientific calculator. Okay, so I'll give you a brief idea. So this is how our scientific calculator looks. Now you can see we have just before CALC in our actual calculator. Here we do not have CALC, but we have ABS written. Okay, we have ABS written, and here we have X cube. Okay, but anyways, you will find everything else is exactly same. Okay, so here you can see we have a fraction sign. We can use that. I'll say bracket fraction 1, and now when I have to go down, if I you can see the cursor, you can see the cursor is in the numerator. If I want to go down, I have to press these arrow keys. We have 4 arrow keys here. I'll press down arrow key. You'll see the cursor has gone down now. I'll press 13. Now I want to come out of it, so I'll press side arrow key. You can see now the cursor is on the side. I press bracket close. Now I want raise to 2. So I have one button X square here. I can press that directly. I get raised to 2, or I will remove it, or you can press this X raised to box button here. The X raised to box. If I press that, I get a box. Now I can press 2. Now if I want to multiply, now if I press just multiply, you can see my cursor is still in the power. I do not want that. I want to come down. So I'll press the arrow key. I press the arrow key, and then I will have 12 divided by 13. This is the probability that we are getting. Probability is 0.00546,199. So whenever you are using a value for whenever you are using a value for calculation, you will use at least 6 significant numbers. Now what is a significant number? If I write a number or I write in both of these numbers, we have four significant numbers. Any zeros after decimal point or any zeros before decimal point do not count as significant numbers. Why? Because I can write this as 1.023 into 10 raised to minus 6, I think minus 6, and here I can, no, not minus 6, minus 4, and here I can write 1.023 into 10 raised to minus 7 in plus 7. In both of these cases, the actual value is given by 1023. So that is why we do not count these zeros as significant and these zeros as significant. So we have four significant digits here. So for calculation purposes, we will be using at least six significant numbers. So I may or may not use this for calculation, but you can see I have written six significant numbers here. So you'll have to practice that. You'll have to consciously remember that we should write at least six significant numbers. Yes, this can be round off because this is 9 9 and we can write 5462 and it will give us the same answer. But many times when we are doing long calculations, small approximations will make a big difference. So we'll be using at least six significant numbers for our calculation purposes. For our final answer, you can give four significant numbers, not less than that. So let's get back. This was our second part. Let's talk about first. Now, what is the difference between first and the second part? In the first part, I said two sevens out of three cards. In the second part, I am saying two sevens out, first two sevens out of three cards. So here we had first two sevens. Here I can have 7 7 not a 7, or I can have 7 not 7, or I can have not 7 7. These are the three possibilities, and these possibilities can be counted by using 3C2 combinations. We will always use combinations. This was nothing but permutation. We had only one single way of arrangement, so it was permutation, and this is nothing but combination. So it becomes 3C2. So 3C2, and then we multiply the probability of any one of them, and that would be nothing but probability of getting a 7 twice, that would be square, into probability of not getting a 7. So it will be this much into, now we have combinations in our calculator. If you see just below, just above the division sign and just above the multiplication sign, we have NPR and we have NCR. You can see that. Now anything written in yellow can be accessed by the shift button. You can see a big shift button, yellow button. So if I press that shift button and then I press division, you can see I have C. You can see I have C. But combination, how do we write combination? We'll say into, we want 3 and then shift, that divide, I will get C and then 2. This becomes 3C2. And I've multiplied that to my previous answer, and that way I will get this. My answer is 0.01659. So if I want to find 17C5, I will just say 17 shift C and then 5. So 618. If you want to find 15P4, 15 shift multiplication and then 4. So anything written in yellow can be accessed by using shift button. Back. So this is the probability that we are getting. So because we had three different such forms, the probability is 3 times this, because our 3C2 was nothing but 3. So this was the difference between first two sevens and two sevens out of three cards. The third wala, the third one we have at least two sevens. So we'll have either two sevens or three sevens. So probability of getting two, I will write sevens. Okay. Just a way of writing does not matter. So I'll say two sevens and I will have one non-7. I can write it as n. I'll say one non-7. This would be two sevens plus probability of getting three sevens. So we have already calculated this. That would be 0.016389598 plus probability of getting three sevens. We can use this form again. We'll say 3C3 probability of getting a 7, the whole cube, because they are independent. C3C3 is nothing but 1, and we know that when all three are 7, we have only one possibility, that is 777. All three must be 7, so only one possibility. So I will have 1 by 13 and then raised to, I will have 3. One, this becomes probability of getting all three sevens plus 0.0163859. If you're writing 6 digits, you don't have to worry about rounding it off, because in actuality they ask us to write 5 digits only. That is why I ask you to write 6 digits. Okay, you don't have to worry about rounding it off when you're taking at least 6 digits. This is how we'll solve uh, when we have replacement. What happens if we have no replacement? We'll say without replacement. What happens when we have without replacement? Same question without replacement. For the first part, we are saying two sevens out of three cards. Whenever we do not have replacement, we use directly combination and permutation. So for the first one, I'll say two cards out of three. So I'll say I have option of four cards of being seven. So out of four sevens, I need to select any two, and out of 48 non sevens, I need to select any one, divided by the total ways I will have. Out of 52 cards, I have to select any three. So this becomes, we'll have 4C2 plus, sorry, multiply 48C1 divided by, we'll have 52C3. So whenever we have without replacement, what we do is we directly use combination. Now I'll give you the logic behind it. What happens is, in the first card, if I say the first card was 7, then the second card was 7, and then the third card was not 7. So for the first card I had total 52 cards, for the second card I had total 51 cards, and for the third I had total 50 cards. This was my denominator. And for the first being 7, I will have 4 sevens. But because first was a 7, that is why for the second now I have only 3 sevens. And for the third card being non 7, I have total 48 options. Essay I will have three different combinations, because I will have 7 7 n, I will have 7 n 7, and I will have n 7 7. In actuality, we'll get 3 times of the same value. Now we can convert this into factorials. This 4 into 3, I can say this is 4 factorial divided by 2 factorial, and 48 is nothing but 448c1, and here I will have 52 factorial divided by 49 factorial, and if I make this 3 into 3 factorial, I will get another 2 factorial here. So this becomes nothing but 4c2, this becomes 52c3. Okay. So we can write this directly as combinations. So rather than going this long route, what we'll do is we'll write it as combinations. We'll say out of 4 sevens, I have 4 options of sevens. I need to select any two. So 4c2. Then I have one more card to select. That should be a not 7. How many not 7s are left? I have 48 not 7s. So out of those 48 not 7s, I am selecting any one. Divided by total ways, so out of 52 cards I can select any 3, that would be the total ways, so that becomes my probability. Okay. Now for the second one, because we are only going for one single way, okay, we had 3 different ways, but for the second one we are only going for one single way. That is why we'll be using permutations. All you can do is you can say 4p2 48 p1 divided by 52 p3. You just convert this into permutations. Or what you can do is just divide this by how many different ways we could have done it. We could have done it 3 different ways, so you could have divided this by 3. Or you can just write your equation with permutations. So out of 4 sevens, I have to select 2 sevens. Then out of 48 non sevens, I have to select one non seven. Upon total ways would be out of 52 cards, I have to select any 3. I'll have 4 P2 into 48 P1 divided by 52 P3. You can see if you divide this by 3, you will get this. We can check that. 0.0136 316 divided by 3, and okay, 136316, and you can see it's basically the same. Okay, because I do not have all the digits, or did I make some mistake while writing? should be exactly same, or maybe there is some problem, I don't know. So let's not, acha, the I this is 130316, not 136. That was the problem. Now see, I can go up and down to find my equations. See, if I go up, you can see I can find all the equations that I have written. Okay, you can see that. If I go down, you can see I can come back to the equation. Now I made a mistake. I went too far. Just rotating to my other equations. Okay, so if I want to edit this equation, all I have to do is press side arrow, and you will find that you will get the cursor. So this was 0. So you can see we are getting exactly the same answer. The difference is यहाँ पे 666 आया हुआ है, whereas we got 9. That is because of the decimal points that we have taken. We have skipped a few decimal points here. That is why there is a slight difference. So did everybody understand this? Now let's talk about the last third part. So we are saying at least two sevens out of three cards. At least two sevens. So we'll have probability of 7 7 not a 7. This is how I write it. Plus probability of 7 7 7. So this we already know. This 0.0130316, and this would be out of four sevens we have to select 3, and divided by out of 52 we have to select any 3. Directly add our probability 0.0132. This is how we'll find probability with replacement or without replacement. So independent or not independent. We do not use the word dependent. Okay, we'll always say independent or not independent. But while teaching, I might use the word dependent. Okay, that just means it is not independent, because mathematics cannot prove dependencies. Mathematics can only prove independencies. I'll talk about that later on. We'll have full chapter, we'll have full discussion about those things. So whenever I say dependencies, I am mathematically wrong. Okay, either it is independent or it is not independent. Now, whenever we talk about selecting people or living things, you will always remember that we will have that without replacement. So, if I say that I have 15 players and I need to select a team of 11 players, in how many ways can I do that? Or what is the probability that I will have? Acha, theek hai, I'll give you a simple say example. Let's say in a group of 20 accountants and 30 actuaries, I'm selecting a team of 5 people. I need to find probability that I will have 3 accountants and 2 actuaries in that group. I have to find that probability. So the probability will be what? It will be out of 20 accountants, I need to select any 3, into 30 accountants, I need to select any 2, divided by out of 50 people, I will be selecting any 5. So this becomes our probability. So whenever we have people, whenever we have living things or living creatures, we cannot repeat them. If I'm selecting a group of 5 people, I cannot repeat one person again and again in that particular group. So it will always be without replacement. When we have non-living things, we can have replacement. So the question will be mentioned, it will be mentioned in the question whether it is replacement or not replacement. Okay. With replacement or without replacement. This is how we will solve our questions when we talk about with replacement, without replacement. We'll move on to our next topic. The next topic is conditional probability. This is the mathematical formula. This we call it as conditional probability. We say probability of A given that B has already occurred. So this slash is nothing but given. Now, in many books, they write it as A slash B, A divided by B, but we will not write in this particular manner. So even if you find probability A divided by B, this is nothing but A given B, because in probabilities we don't actually use divide. Okay, so whenever they write A slash B or we write A slash B, we'll always write straight slash, we'll not use divide by. The probability of A given B, this is nothing but A given B, or we say probability of getting an A when B has already occurred. That is probability of A and B happening together divided by probability of B. So if I take the same example of our A being 7, selecting a 7, B being a club, if I say find the probability of A given B, that would be A given B will be what? I'll just say A given B would be getting a 7 given clubs. We are saying what is the probability of getting a 7 given that we have already selected a club. So we are still selecting one single card and we are saying now what is the probability that that card would be a 7 when we already know that it is a club. So the given information is something that we know about that happening. So that would be what we'll say probability of A intersection B. That would be 1 by 13 divided by, sorry, 1 by 52. Probability of B getting a club was 13 by 52. So we are getting probability of A given B will be 1 by 13. And logically, I am saying given that the card is a club, so we have now only 13 options. Logically, we have only 13 options for what those cards might be, out of which there is only one 7. If I say that I have selected a card and it is a club, now tell me what is the probability that it might be a 7. So you would say that there is only one 7 that is also a club and there are only 13 clubs. So the possibility would be 1 out of 13. Right? So even logically we'll get the same answer and mathematically we should get the same answer obviously. So this becomes nothing but our conditional probability. Now let's take a question. I'm using the previous information. And I will write another second part. So in a group of 30 accountants and 20 actuaries, find the probability that in a group of 5 there are 2 accountants and 3 actuaries. So for the first part, I'll say a group of 5. Again, this would be definitely without replacement. So I will say out of 30 accountants, I need to select 2, and out of 20 actuaries, I need to select 3 out of 50 C5. The probability becomes 0.234052. What is this? This is nothing but probability of getting 2 accountants and 3 actuaries. Actuaries I'll write 80 and accountants I'll write AC. So this is nothing but intersection of getting 2 accountants and 3 actuaries. So intersection. For the second one, we have to find probability of, if I say getting to accountant is A and this is B, so I'll have A intersection B. This would be A intersection B. For the second one, I need to find in a group of 5, there are 2 accountants given there are 3 actuaries. So I need to find probability of A given B. So first of all, I need probability of B. So in a group of 5, there are 3 actuaries. What about the other 2? Other 2 can be actuaries or they can be accountants. So first I'll find probability of B, that 3 are actuaries. So I will have, out of 20 actuaries, I have selected any 3. So now I have only 17 more actuaries and I have all of 30 accountants. So in total, I am left with 47 people. and I can select anyone out of these 47 people to be my next two candidates. So both of them can be actuaries, both of them can be accountants, or one can be actuary, one can be accountant. So from any of these 47, I need to select any two. Upon, we'll have total 50 C3 out of total 50. I'm selecting 50 C5, any 5. Probability of B getting 3 actuaries out of 5. I think I did a mistake. 47 C2, 50 C3 नहीं, 50 C5. So 50 C5, I will get 0.5816. So how did I realize I made a mistake? Because probability was 62. So definitely probability cannot be greater than 1. So definitely I must have made a mistake somewhere. Okay. So probability of B is this much. So probability of A given B will be equal to probability of A intersection B, that would be this, upon probability of B, we have 0.234052 by 0.581633. I can use previous answer, like I want the exactly same previous answer, I can use ANS for answer. I'll get 0.402405. So my conditional probability is 40%. So if there is a 40% chance that there will be two accountants when I know that there are three actuaries in a group of five. That is what this is saying. So this is how we use our conditional probabilities. For today, I am going to end our class here. I am not going to drag it anymore. We have studied a few concepts today of probability. Now, most of you might have already studied these concepts, but these concepts are very much important because probability is basics of the whole statistics that we are going to study. So, all of our 13 papers will have some way or the other probabilities being used. So, the concept of independence, the concept of conditional probability, later on we'll be studying Bayes theorem. So there, these concepts are basics for all of our 13 papers. So some way or the other we'll be using these concepts, okay, every single time. So these are very important. So I will be giving you questions. I'll be posting in half hour or 1 hour. I'll be posting it on our WhatsApp group. If uh, there is someone who is still not in the WhatsApp group, please message me. I will again write down my number in the chat. So please WhatsApp me that I will add you in the group, and then I will send the practice questions. So I will give you most likely 5 or 7 practice questions, and I expect next Saturday everybody will do that. Okay, by next Saturday. Next Saturday we'll most likely have our class 4 to 6. Okay, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., not am. Okay, so next Saturday most likely we'll have 4 to 6 p.m. No, there are no changes yet in exam criteria. See, they, because of this pandemic, they were thinking about whether to take all examinations online, but it is not possible for them to take written examinations online. Okay, so they said they might think about doing something, but there is no changes yet. So we are going to assume September. By the time September comes, they don't change anything, and we'll study exactly the way we would study for previous exams. So we still have paper A, that is written 100 marks, and we still have paper B, that would be 100 marks online examination of R programming. Anything else? If you have any more doubts, you can message on WhatsApp group. Okay. So we'll end our class here, and we'll meet next Saturday. Bye. Membership. What about membership? Membership, you can apply for membership, and for membership, tomorrow is the last date if you want to give September exam as a member. So for everyone, I will give you a brief idea about what we do for membership, and there is something called as giving exam as a non-member. So if you are giving exam as a non-member, you can only give either CM1 or CS1. Only one of these two you can give as a non-member, and after you pass that, you have to apply for membership. So you can give your first examination as a non-member. But let's say if you're planning to give multiple examination in your first sitting, if you want to give CM1 and CS1 together, so for that you have to apply for membership. So for applying for membership, you literally have last date is tomorrow, and uh, you have full procedure. You can just type in on Google, just type IFOA membership, and you will find all the information, relevant information there, and how to apply for the membership. Okay, but if you are planning to give only one examination, you have an option of giving that examination as a non-member. So if you have not decided yet whether you are going to give actuarial science or not, so for that you should give as first examination as a non-member. Non-membership registration starts in July, so you have time. You can figure out whether you want to do actuarial science or not. Okay. So if you want membership, you have to apply. Last date is tomorrow. If you do not want, you are just giving one single paper, so you can give it as a non-member. Yes, if you clear your first paper, CS1, let's say, if you clear that in September, then you have to apply for membership. Okay. You will definitely get membership even if you apply now or after CS1. Okay. So you can give CS1 as a non-member, or you can apply for membership now as well. Okay, so if you are planning to give only one single paper, I would suggest give as a non-member.